All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about Bruno, a tool that's making some serious waves and challenging the big name players in the API client space. So what's all the fuss about? Let's get into it. So does this question feel familiar? I mean, if you've ever found yourself sighing at a forced cloud sync or looking at a rising subscription bill or just feeling like your tools are fighting your workflow instead of helping it, well, you're definitely not alone. And this is exactly the problem a new generation of tools is aiming to fix. But before we jump to the solution, let's really nail down what the problem is. Because, the world of API clients has been dominated by a few big names for a while, and that's led to some real headaches for developers. These aren't just random complaints. They come straight from what's called the Bruno Manifesto. Think about it. Mandatory cloud storage that instantly brings up privacy and security questions. Then you've got teen licenses that just keep getting more expensive. The tools can feel totally separate from your actual coding process. And let's be real, the feature bloat is a thing. Sometimes you just don't need all those bells and whistles.
And that right there is where our challenger steps into the ring. Bruno wasn't just built to be another option, it was designed from the ground up to be a direct answer to all those problems. It's really a whole different way of thinking.
So what is Bruno exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's an API client that lives right where your code does, on your computer. It's open source, it's really fast, and its killer feature is being Git-friendly. And what that means is your API collections are just simple files that you can version control with Git, just like the rest of your project. This quote really gets to the heart of it. This tool wasn't made just for the sake of being different. It was built with a real purpose, to fix what its creators saw as a fundamentally broken model for how we test and develop APIs. Okay, time for the main event. You just can't talk about a new API client without putting it up against the reigning champ, Postman. So let's put them side by side and see how this challenger really stacks up. And right here, this is the core difference. It's a total philosophical divide. Bruno is built to be offline first. Everything is stored locally in plain text files, and collaboration happens through Git, the tool you're already using every single day. Postman, on the other hand, is built entirely around its cloud platform. It wants your data on its servers, because that's how its collaboration features work. These are two completely opposite ways of looking at the world. And that big philosophical difference, it leads to some very real practical outcomes. With Bruno, storage is local. With Postman, it's in the cloud. That means Bruno gets full, seamless Git integration, while Postman's version control is kind of locked into its own system. Collaboration on Bruno is totally free using Git instead of needing paid team plans. And that brings us to the bottom line. Bruno is 100% free and open source, while Postman's team features are gonna cost you, and it tends to be a heavier, more resource-intensive application. So after seeing that comparison, the benefits of taking this different path start to become pretty darn clear. Let's break down what this actually means for you and your team. I mean, look at that number, 0. That is powerful. It doesn't matter if you're a solo developer or a giant company, the cost for collaborating with your team using Bruno is nothing. Zilch. You don't pay per user, you just use Git, which, let's be honest, your team is almost certainly already using. This completely changes the math on what your engineering tools should cost. And here's why all this matters. These features translate into some huge benefits. Your API collections actually become part of your code base, getting reviewed in the same pull requests as your code. All your sensitive data, your API keys, it all stays on your machine. That's a massive win for security. The tool itself is simple, focused, and not bloated with stuff you don't need. And because it's open source and lightweight, it's fast and you can see exactly how it works. This whole Git native idea creates a workflow that just makes so much sense. You build your request in Bruno, you test it out, but then instead of hitting a sync to cloud button, you just git commit. That's it. Your API changes are now officially part of your project's history. Your teammates can review them in a pull request, just like any other code change. It's truly integrated. So if all this sounds pretty good, the next question is probably, okay, but how much of a pain is it to switch? And the answer is it's surprisingly easy. Seriously, you can be up and running in just a couple of minutes. You download the app for your operating system and you're done. There's no account to create, no forms to fill out. You can start building new stuff right away. Or, and this is key, you can just use their built-in importer to pull all your existing Postman collections right into Bruno. They've made leaving your old tool behind as painless as possible. And in the end, this is really the fundamental question, isn't it? It's a choice about where our work should live. Should it be on some third-party cloud platform, or should it be right there, versioned and managed alongside our code? The rise of tools like Bruno suggests there's a really strong movement back to keeping everything together. It's a fascinating shift in the developer world and definitely want to keep an eye on. Thanks for tuning in.